the first that all of us experience is remembering where we were when we first heard earth-shaking news. I remember where I was when I heard that the plane had crashed into the World Trade Center. I remember where I was when I heard that President Kennedy had been shot. I even remember where I was when I first heard that the spaceship had crashed just north of Roswell. I was in Albuquerque. My wife and I and our kids were watching TV in our house. On comes this TV program that says, back in 1947, a cowboy discovered what appeared to be spacecraft wreckage on a ranch north of Roswell. There were casualties, little tiny coffins made by a local mortuary. There was a government cover-up, including a local well-known nurse who just disappeared after she saw the alien bodies. Quite a story. My first response to that was, why wasn't I informed? I grew up in Roswell. Why wasn't I in the loop? I went all the way through public school there. Why did it take 40 years, from 1947 to 1987, for me to hear about this? After all, you know, it wasn't like we didn't take field trips out to ranches. The teacher could have said, hi kids, today we're going out here to the ranch where the cowboy found the flying saucer wreck. Instead of arrowheads, let's look for space metal. Or you know how towns make little museums of the place where famous residents once lived? Why didn't we have this little house in our town where the tour guide said, welcome, this is where the nurse lived, the one who saw the alien bodies. She disappeared, you know. Those are her clothes still in the closet. That would have given us kids nightmares, of course. Our parents would have loved it. They would have said, if you misbehave, you're going to have to go live in the nurse's house. But there wasn't such a place. So, I'm the reunion speaker at my next high school reunion, Roswell High School class of '64. We don't have very regular reunions. We hadn't had one in 15 years. And this one was 12 years after I saw the Alien show on TV. I began my spiel like this. You know, I'm still mad at you guys. You didn't tell me between classes that we were going to have a pop test in algebra. You didn't tell me that Judy Blevins had dumped me. And I thought that it was just a bumpy landing. No one told me that our spaceship crashed. And with that, the room went wild. No one, not a single person in my graduating class had ever heard of a Roswell incident growing up. And we had grown up there in the late 40s, the 50s, and into the 60s. Our 35th class reunion was the first time that we as a class ever discussed the Roswell incident. And discuss it we did until late at night. This one fellow said that he'd been at Applebee's that afternoon. There was graffiti in the men's room that said, "Nerds are living proof that aliens landed on yo mama." One of my friends asked, why do we always assume that it was little green men? The lady answered him, because if it had been green women, they never would have crashed. They would have stopped and asked directions. So on we went. Class after class graduated from Roswell High School, never knowing about an incident. What about the adults? I phoned my dad. He said, yeah, back in the 50s, he'd hear men talking about a flying saucer and about Martians over coffee in local restaurants, but they always whispered. They were afraid that if the story got out in a big way, that they'd get in trouble with someone like FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. I have never understood that fear. Still, to give them credit, it was the 50s. McCarthy hearings, New Mexico, the home of the Manhattan Project, the Trinity test site, and the 509th Bomb Group, which was stationed there in Roswell, a group of pilots trained to drop atomic bombs. People whispered. Therein lies the crux of the issue with me. How did a story go from being a whisper to a roar? A story that had been contained for such a long time so well, how did it suddenly get out? And the only theory that I find plausible is E.F. Hutton. If you remember, back in the 80s, which was when the space alien program came on, there were commercials on TV saying that when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. Evidently, E.F. Hutton crashed in Roswell, got up the next morning, went for coffee, overheard the whispering, and when he blabbed, the whole world listened. Because in the 90s, the Roswell incident went off the charts. Early 90s, I was watching Jay Leno. He began the show by saying, a new poll is out. 100% of the people who believe in O.J.'s innocence also believe space aliens landed in Roswell. It went international. I was in Iowa City, Iowa for a class, and Hawkeye's here. Summer of 1998. There was a lady in my class, got to talking to her, found out that she was a TV reporter from Mumbai, India. And the year before, her station had sent her from Mumbai to Roswell to the UFO Festival to cover the 50th anniversary, it was 1997, of the Roswell incident. In the 90s, the Roswell incident became required reading on campus. My daughter came home from college toward the end of the 90s. We still have relatives down in Roswell. We went down for a visit. 27 miles north of Roswell is a sign that says Roswell 1947 crash site. She says, we've got to stop. I've got to get some crash site rocks to give to my friends at college. My wife says, are you nuts? There's a bucket in the trunk. Get a bucket full, take them back and sell them. This is the Kachin crash site, you know. So, people find out I'm from Roswell, they ask me, tell me, what do you really think happened? I say, well, when I grew up in Roswell, we were taught that Will Rogers said, all I know, I read in the papers. The Roswell Daily Record carried this headline, July the 8th, 1947. Roswell Army Airfield captures flying saucer in Roswell region. Subheadline, no details of flying disc are revealed. That's all I know. I wasn't kept in the loop. Thank you.